Hello there. This is a play of what we have done often in public groups, explaining about what's called your power of attorney. Sounds very formal, but it's what the name is. Someone is your agent. Someone is handling things for you, not medical things. That's a different power of attorney, the medical one, but with your finances and your taxes and your all things you own, whatever it might be. So what we want to go over with you is a bit deeper dive into what this power of attorney is all about, why you really need to have one, even though we hope you never need it, and some various important details that we think are often overlooked. So this is always part of a basic estate plan. Now here's Jay Leno. He's a wonderful comedian, actor, and a car collector too. If you're into that, it's fabulous. But he was busy, and like so many people, he hadn't got around to doing power of attorney, at least. I don't know what else he had by way of estate planning, but he and his wife did not have powers of attorney. And so, unfortunately, when his wife began to be suffering from dementia, he could not step in and make decisions for her because even though he's the spouse, he did not have the authority under a power of attorney. So he had to go to court. So that's now, of course, that works, but it's more public, number one. It is more expensive. And of course, Jay could afford that, but it's more time consuming. So if you had to do this today, it might be weeks, months before you would get in front of the court. So your financial power of attorney gives you powers that maybe you didn't need when you first had one, like creating an irrevocable trust. Maybe it's for a beneficiary, maybe it's for yourself to protect your home from being lost to the nursing home. Doing Medicaid planning, this is something it wasn't important when we were younger. Dealing with digital assets, it's a new world out there. Much of what we really own these days is, in a sense, digital. Making unlimited gifts, you might want to do that for all kinds of reasons, and so we won't limit that. You may hire family members to do certain jobs for you. And then, of course, they would need these days to know what are your passwords and logins, your email, your online accounts. It's a whole different world than it was when we first maybe did our power of attorney. So these are things that might be, now there may be other things that you need to have in there if you own a business, if you're farming, if have oil and gas and all kinds of other things that might be unique to you, that would be included so they could handle what needs to be done in the power of attorney. Now, again, they need to be acting as you and know what you would do, not just what they think would do. Why is this so long? Why can't I just have a document, one page says anything I can do, you can do? Well, I overemphasize for the sake of making the point. No, the world is not organized that way. The bank, the other companies, the financial companies, no, they will not honor that. It needs to, what they're looking for, if you go to the bank and you want to, change the CDs or do that, your document needs to be fairly specific about what you can do. The powers need to be specifically. It can be, well, whatever, all my money you can handle. No, you've got to be much more specific than that. In you don't want to have them try to guess. You want to make it very specific. And there are things you might want to include, and there are things you might not want to include. So being this specific actually helps you limit what you think needs to be done and the things that you don't want people getting involved with. So that's why we say details are your friend, because that you control how much power your power of attorney has during any time when they're using it. When should my power of attorney kick in? Well, it could be that you're buying a property in the Jersey Shore or Florida or who knows, somewhere out west. Do you really want to fly there for a 1 hour meeting to sign the agreements? Maybe you want to hire somebody. That could be a special power of attorney for somebody. Or maybe you have a child who's nearby and you would say, okay, you can I'm allowing you to step in and edit and use my power of attorney, and there will be a document saying that to save you making the trip. Or more commonly, you're not feeling well for a while, or you just have gotten, unfortunately, no longer able to make really a sound financial decision on your own. And that's kind of the classic use of it if it's going to be long lasting, where no, I really can't do things anymore, or I'm really not sure, or I'm just not up to it anymore, or I'm making poor decisions. Or you want to delegate something that's, maybe new and you want to delegate a job to somebody who can help, you think would have better judgment because they know more about this kind of thing. So there might be some special type of occurrence when you would say, "Yeah, could you help me out? I'm going to let you act as power of attorney. Let's work on this together." But then you can have the power to maybe ask some questions that I wouldn't know to ask, and so on. So it might be something a little more complicated that you want help with. Do you need the original? And here's a lawyer answer, isn't it? Maybe. Uh, Often you do need it for transferring, certainly transferring real estate. That is the one time I can guarantee you the original will be needed. Now, do you get it back? Yes, you do. But it has to go to the courthouse to make that change of ownership or buying a new property, but it will come back to you. There might be other situations where the bank or financial company will require the original document. Now, again, each time they'll give it back. So you need to just ask them when they say we need your power of attorney. Ask them as a follow-up question, do you need the original or will a copy, it's a photocopy, be fine? So you let them find out that. So if photocopy is fine, then there it is. I would think they'd want it a printout electronically. I'm not sure. You have to ask them whether an electronic version is sufficient. If it is, great. If it's not, then you'll have to either, you can download, by the way, you can download PDFs once you've done your power of attorney with us. So you could reprint those and send them in. So the answer is maybe. How frequently should it be updated? This is getting more and more critical. It used to be it could last a long time and it wasn't really an issue. But because of various things that have been going on, some good, some not so good, the financial companies and the banks, you really have to ask them what is their rule. And you don't know what they're going to say. And the chances are, if you're talking to one bank and another bank and then your financial, you may get three different answers. And that's just the way it is. But what happens in that case? So let's say, for example, you talk to one bank and another bank and a financial company, and one of them says it's got to be no more than 3 years old. And that's the shortest time frame, the youngest your power of attorney has to be. Then that's what you would do every 3 years, update your power of attorney for everybody, because the one that is the shortest time is the one that will control how often you're going to have to get an update. And it's a chore, but we just basically crank out, redo unless you have a change to make, redo your power of attorney, and if there are legal changes, we'll let you know. Opportunities, we'll let you know, and then you'll sign it and date it, and it'll be updated. Some are very cautious, and they might want us to certify that this has not been revoked. Because this has happened. People have gotten the old power of attorney. This happened as a major case in our state a few years ago, where it had been revoked, but the person that went to the financial company didn't tell them that. So what makes a valid power of attorney? Well, that notice you see right there, some people think, well, that's just something I signed, then I can throw it away. No, no, no. That notice is part of the power of attorney. Of course, it's going to be signed by you at that bottom there, but do not throw that away and think it's a one-time use. No, no. They want to see that, and they would be concerned if it's not there. And then, of course, the bulk of that document is a long list of the powers that they have. And there has to be specific. That's why it's such a long list. You can't just have one thing saying, they can do all my real estate. They can do all. You've got to be more detailed than that. And it's important. And I think that also, however, protects you. There might be some things you don't want to allow them to get involved with or don't need them to allow to do. And of course, the agent at the very last page has to sign saying, yes, I agree to serve under this capacity. And then there has to be, when you sign it, proper witnessing and a notary seal that this is truly your valid and most recent power of attorney. So all those are the formalities that are critical, and they will look for these. So make note of what needs to be done, what you need to be ready for. We have all this for you. Don't worry. This is all you get from us, but just make sure you've got all these things, your ducks in a row, so to speak, before you start using it, should you need to use it. Now, here's all who should be power of attorney? Well, you may have, like me, I was an only child, so guess what? But that isn't always the case. However, it is best to have one at a time. But I love both my children. Let's have them both do it. That's very nice thought and very loving thing to do, but actually it doesn't help. Because then if you name both your children, or God forbid all three children, then they all have to be doing things together. You can't have one of the two powers of attorney go to the bank and do something. The bank is highly likely to say, where's the other person? Maybe they don't agree with this. And they have to say that. So they're not being mean. They just have to know because it could be, it could be the case that you're doing something, but some people do things behind other backs. So the bank will want everybody to sign. So that's why one at a time is much more efficient. Now you can have backups. You should have backups. You want a person that is organized and has the time to do it, organized and trustworthy. Or typically it's going to be someone in the next generation, well, a spouse first, maybe, of course, but it might be a child, or it could be a professional sometimes, or a friend. If you just need that, or maybe as your ultimate backup. That could be your ultimate backup. But we call that, from sports, have a deep bench because you never know. You want to make sure there's going to be somebody, maybe the person you chose is not well or they're on a trip and who knows. You want to have as much as you can and still have good people and the right people have a deep bench. So it's not just naming one person, not just maybe my spouse, but maybe a child, another child, or another child, or a friend. So you want to make sure this, when it's needed, there's going to be somebody that will be in that line of people who can go ahead and take action because you don't know what will happen with their first or second choice. They may not be able to do it. Now, there's also a separate power of attorney for medical decisions. Why is it separate? Well, number one, if we put the two together, it'd be a huge document and kind of cumbersome. But more importantly, you often enough, you may choose a different person. This is going after our spouse. You may choose a different person to make medical decisions and another person to do the financial. Why? Maybe because of their personality, their skills, their availability, their background, whatever. It's often enough. So it's more efficient and also gives you that opportunity to maybe name someone else. So this could be medical treatments. It could be minor, like some kind of surgery. Not surgery is minor, but it could be just a shot for a certain disease. They would need to access your medical information, and they could hire nurses and home care agencies. But they have to know the situation, be able to talk to the doctors or nurses about what is the decision, what's going on here, why is this a decision had to be made, what does it mean? So they could authorize, are you an organ donor? Now that would be after you're deceased. But it might be if there's something that they say we could do. It's kind of experimental still, but we really think it could be helpful. You can say, okay, let's try it, or you can say, no, it's too experimental. That's your call. But all of this, all these decisions, you're trying as well as you can to put yourself in that person's mindset. What would they do? What would they want or not want? And that's important that you're doing it for them, not what you, not necessarily what you would want or you would not want, but what they would want. And of course, it could be, unfortunately, in some cases, an end of life decision to turn off the machine, where they cannot make that. They're just not conscious and they cannot make that decision themselves. So it can be trivial things or it could be major, major things that you could be called upon to make decisions about. Again, one at a time, one person at a time. Now, of course, they can, if you have several children, they would want to all talk about it and be involved, of course. But as far as who signs or who gives the go-ahead or says no, it should be one person. Um, so it could be a deadlock. I've had situations where it was two children. I've had this twice, and they for a while, even they could not agree on what to do, and that's dangerous because nothing could be done. So understand they need to agree on all decisions, and people are different. It's not one good better than the worst, better than the other, but one at a time. Now, of course, they would consult and talk to, other siblings and doctors and so on. But they should know about you and what you want to be taken care of and how you feel about this whole thing. And as much as they know that, obviously it could be a spouse, but it also could be a child, in many cases, a trusted friend or a sibling. If there's somebody in the medical field that could be helpful, perhaps in translating the medical jargon. But again, have it what we call that deep bench. If you now you don't put in people just to have a deep bench, but people you think, oh, yeah, they could do it. But you again, be careful. There are people who care a lot about you, and that just it's wonderful, but it would get in the way. They would really it would really upset them. They could not easily. Now, of course, if it's a difficult decision, it's not easy, but this even more so. They cannot, their emotional feelings for you and about you kind of overrule what their reason would allow them to approve of or prevent. So choose people who could, even though they do care about you deeply, that would not make them kind of frozen where they could not make a move because that's dangerous. It might be a decision that's got to be made right now, and that might be just impossible for them to do. So when do they take over? Well, it may be that you just are just really tired or you're medicated and you feel, I'm not sure I understand what they're saying, and I don't feel clear. I'm clearly thinking, or it might be you are in a coma. That's kind of the opposite extreme, and obviously you can't, or you're under sedation with a lot of medical, and having all that in you under sedation, it might confuse you and give you kind of either gives you dementia because you can't think very well because of the medication, or you really do have dementia. And that's very confusing and really hard. So where whatever one of these reasons, I just means let's say you're a power of attorney for me. I don't really, I'm not totally enough conscious or aware to make an intelligent and serious, perhaps, or even, a medical decision. So the other thing that kind of goes along with this is who can talk to my doctor, not make decisions, but hear what going on with me. What do I have? What is my disease or my injury? What's the prognosis? Normally, I'm not allowed to do that. Only my spouse, let's say, or my power of attorney. But this would be, I'm not power of attorney, but I'm a child or a friend, a very close friend, and I would like to be able to know what's going on. This is especially with other children who aren't power of attorney. So you can put their name on this called a HIPAA under that law about privacy in medical decisions. So again, these are people who aren't decision makers. They're not power of attorney, but they can be in the room. They can hear what the doctor or the medical professionals have to say about your situation. So they can talk amongst themselves. And that might be really important to you that say all your children can discuss this, even though only one of them is power of attorney. That would take a lot of pressure off the power of attorney and, would be thoughtful. But when it comes down to it, even though your children, there might be a case they don't all agree or they're not sure, your power of attorney would make the decision. But these are people who can know what's going on. And again, that can be very helpful and supportive to your medical or medical power of attorney. Then living will, which is kind of a weird name, isn't it? Because it is not about your will at all, but it's called a living will. Otherwise known, you might hear the hospital call it an advance directive. Hospitals want you to have this. That is a widespread, universal, as far as I can tell, this is now a universal requirement. If you go to the hospital for a 15-minute checkup or some minor procedure, the chances are very high they will want to know, do you have a living will? And do we, the hospital, have a copy of it? So if you're not sure, take it with you, take a copy with you. The chances are very high they will ask that question. Now, hopefully, once you've given it to them, they put that in their records. They don't have to ask you that again. But it's an end of life statement saying if it is hopeless and there's nothing they can do, and it is not, I'm not really myself anymore. I I'm in no position to, live any kind of life. Maybe I can't even, or maybe I can't even, have to be, under all kinds of treatment. And there's no way this can be lead to really being cured or once again able to have a normal life and get around. It says no. Um, Alleviation of pain, certainly. But if it looks like this is the end, and they maybe can keep me physically alive, but I'm never going to be there anymore in any meaningful way. That's where the living will comes in, and it doesn't go into details because we never know what the situation is going to be, but it allows DNR, do not resuscitate, or it might be turn off the machine or something like that. Alleviation of pain, of course. But the living will is something they absolutely require, and it makes sense. This is if the end really is here, and I'm not really there anymore, and there's no way, then no more treatment. Now, it might be the doctor gives me 6 months to live, but there's really nothing else they can do. Okay, send me home, and I'll die at home in 6 months. So it doesn't have to be something that would happen right away. It might be, it might not be. But that's a living will, and it protects the hospital, but it also makes us think about those decisions. So I just wanted to let you know, when you have questions, you may be writing down things and saying, well, what about this, Peter? What about that? We have monthly attorney hours now. June 12th, July 10th, July 16th, as a workshop, excuse me, that's a philanthropy workshop. But on June 12th and July 10th, so once a month, we are doing what we call an attorney hour. There are two attorneys here now, so we might be taking turns on this. But it is just a question you have about anything that we could have an answer for. And it's something in our world of estate planning and all that kind of thing. But if you're not sure, ask the question anyway, and we'll do the best we can, or maybe refer you out to somebody who could answer it more completely. But we're doing this. It's been interesting so far, and so we have these coming up on the 12th and 10th. But it really is part of the ACE benefits we're experimenting with. Would this be helpful? It's been interesting and fun. I think maybe it's a weird kind of fun for me, but it's people asking good questions, and I really appreciate that because I'm never sure have we really communicated. We're also doing a workshop on the specific issue of philanthropy, of being philanthropic, of uh, giving to charities. In one way, many, many ways of doing that. Why are we doing this? Well, we think it's number one, it's a good thing to do, and give you some help on maybe how to do it in the most efficient ways, tax efficient ways, and so on. Also, for people that have been really doing well in life and have larger net worth, it might be a way even of reducing what would be some very large taxes upon their estate. Now, some of these philanthropy uh, products, or you might say, or tools, um, would eventually the money would come back to the family. Others, they don't. But, we've done great things and we are appreciated for that and kind of as a win all around. So it can be it can be going to charity eventually, but for many years it kicks out income for you. So I think a lot of people don't know all the different types of philanthropy. They may have heard about charitable trusts, but there's a lot more we'd like you to know about that could be very helpful. And we're having an ACE Client Appreciation Night. You will hear more when we have set the date and the place and all that. So we're looking forward to that as well. So thanks very much. If you do have questions from today, write it down and get on the monthly attorney hour and then see if you can stump the lawyer. But I really appreciate your questions. It helps us know where we need to be clearer maybe about what we tell you. So we're looking forward to that. So thanks for your time in getting hopefully some review and refreshing about powers of attorney. And we'll be doing more of these. And we always want your feedback and what you think would be helpful and value to you. So thanks very much and see you next time.